Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. County leaders say deep federal funding cuts are tearing into San Diego's safety net programs. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says county supervisors responded today by approving a partnership with local foundations to help keep food, housing, and health services running.
San Diego County leaders say the impacts of federal cuts are already hitting families. Supervisor Tara Lawson-Raymer says they're pushing
care and food assistance programs even further out of reach for our most vulnerable. The figure that I found most shocking and troubling from our point of view is the roughly $300 million in new cost pressures that we are facing.
She says to help fill the $300 million budget hole, the county is partnering with 3 local philanthropic organizations.
We cannot sit back and hope Washington comes to our rescue. We have to be creative and collaborative and build safety nets to protect San Diego families.
The county and the San Diego Foundation will put in $18 million over 2 years. It will create a $36 million fund to prevent cuts to existing county-funded nonprofit programs. The money will support
food banks, housing, and homelessness efforts, and fill healthcare gaps.
The partnership also includes $8 million in additional funds that will provide emergency food and housing support for families who have lost federal benefits. Lawson-Raymer says the collaboration reduces future financial pressure.
It saves the county an estimated $13 million over 2 years.
County officials say the partnership gives them breathing room as they work on a more sustainable plan. For thousands of San Diego families, it means food, housing support, and basic health care will continue, at least for now. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
Well, right now we are enjoying a little break from the rain, but we're expecting another storm to come our way later this week. It's just the start of the rainy season, so now is a good time to check your home for damage or for leaks. Our media partner, KGTV, spoke with claims consultant David Melzer about what your insurance will and won't cover. He says many homeowners are surprised to learn just how much isn't included in their policies. Melzer adds even when damage is covered, filing a claim can raise your rates for years.
We know that the insurance company is going to get their pound of flesh eventually, whether that's, increasing your rates or dropping you or whatever have you. So just to be mindful that from a professional stance in this industry, that you may not always want to file an insurance claim if it's a small amount of damages that may barely exceed your deductible of $1,000, $2,500 or something like that.
And he adds that it can sometimes be cheaper to pay out of pocket rather than involving insurance or waiting for the damage to get worse. FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program say just 1 inch of water in a typical home could lead to as much as $25,000 in damages.
Well, overnight, we're dropping down to 50 degrees, continuing with the mostly cloudy skies. It has been a stormy last couple of days, and that's really going to be the pattern that continues as we head towards the end of the week. We have 2 more storms to talk about, one in the short term, one for the end of the week. As we head into the weekend, I'll break it all down coming up.
The Trump administration's immigration enforcement blitz continues across the nation. More than 200 people have been arrested since the immigration crackdown began across North Carolina over the weekend. Michael Yoshida reports.
Federal immigration agents in North Carolina.
They asked me if I was a citizen. I said, yes, I'm a citizen. They asked if my father was a citizen. He does have an accent, so they pulled him to the side a little bit longer than they did I. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
After having their IDs checked, this man and his father were able to go back to doing yard work, but he questions why they were stopped to begin with.
We don't look like criminals.
Across Charlotte, more than 200 people have been arrested since the crackdown began over the weekend. Local officials and Democrats slamming the actions, while North Carolina's Republican Party praised the enforcement. It's being dubbed Operation Charlotte's Web and spearheaded by U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Regardless of Republican or Democratic city, we're going to enforce the laws across this country.
Some businesses in Charlotte closing their doors after agents chased and tackled people. The owner of this bakery says he's protecting his customers.
I don't want to blame myself, knowing that maybe a kid lost her father or their mother because wasn't his way to buy bread at the bakery.
With immigration agents now moving to Raleigh, the mayor urging residents to be peaceful and respectful.
We didn't ask for this presence. This is, concerning to many, and that folks may want to exercise their First Amendment rights or, protest or other things, and we just want people to be safe, so please be lawful.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida, KPBS News.
According to federal data, the Trump administration has detained a record number of immigrants. Lawyers around the country are working together to find legal strategies to free them. KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis tells us how lawyers are organizing in their fight against mass deportations.
Immigration lawyers who lived through the first Trump term knew they were in for a fight after he got elected to a second term last year. Stacy Tolchin remembers the chaos of family separations and the Muslim travel ban, and she mentally prepared for the second round to be even more chaotic.
It's really much worse than I even contemplated it would be at the beginning of the year.
Tolchin has watched the Trump administration strip students of their visas, deport people to dangerous prisons, and launch violent immigration sweeps across the country. She has helped dozens of immigrants fight deportations in court, and she says each case feels like a battle against the most powerful country on earth.
But we need warriors. We need people to help us in this fight.
But she's not alone. Lawyers across the country are building informal mentoring networks to coordinate a legal resistance to mass deportations. Collectively, they have filed almost 5,000 federal lawsuits arguing that the Trump administration is illegally detaining immigrants and ignoring due process protections.
We're a really strong community, and I'm so proud of my fellow immigration attorneys who have, without question, stepped up.
Nerea Scholl-Woods is a San Diego-based immigration lawyer. She says that she wouldn't know what to do without the help of former colleagues and strangers. They are developing legal strategies in real time, whether it's in person, on the phone, or email chains.
I need your help. Teach me how to do this. And without question, anyone I've reached out with will get on the phone with me and walk me through it.
And one of the most effective legal strategies right now are federal lawsuits known as writ of habeas corpus petitions. They challenge the government's ability to detain someone indefinitely, as the Trump administration has made it nearly impossible for immigrants in detention to get out on bond or parole programs. Habeas petitions are acting as the last line of defense. But they're very complicated to file, according to Justin Brooks, a law professor at the University of San Diego.
The area of habeas law is very narrow, very specific. There's very few practitioners that really even practice in it or fully understand it.
Those with the expertise are helping bridge that knowledge gap. And it seems to be working, at least on a case-by-case basis. Cassandra Lopez, an attorney with Al Otro Lado, says it took her 25 hours to write her first habeas petition, but it got her client out.
Pushing back on behalf of individuals and winning their cases, that's also, really satisfying because this is so unjust. It is so unfair and dehumanizing.
Lopez says that her client had been detained for about 6 months. It's a big individual win, but there are many more who need help.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that the whole system's going to change, but it definitely feels satisfying to be pushing it back against the Trump administration's unjust and dehumanizing immigration policies and winning and feeling vindicated by the court ruling in our favor that this detention is unlawful.
In response to questions from KPBS about the administration's tactics and the surge in habeas petitions, a Department of Justice spokesperson issued the following statement. Quote, President Trump and the Department of Justice will continue to enforce the law as it is written to defend and protect the safety and security of the American people, unquote. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, Congress votes to release the Epstein files. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
When a police officer is found dead in her home, who investigates? A new KPBS podcast explores that question, and it's called One of Their Own. The 5-episode series tells the story of San Diego police officer Kiara Estrada's life and death, the investigation that followed, and the questions that remain to this day. You can listen to the first 2 episodes now at kpbs.org/oneoftheirown or wherever you get your podcasts. The Trump administration has another idea to make housing more affordable. Let homeowners take their mortgage rate with them when they move. Ivan Rodriguez reports on how a portable mortgage could work and how it might backfire.
Allowing people to keep their lower mortgage rates could encourage them to move and free up supply for others, but there are many unanswered questions about how it would work and whether it could disrupt the U.S. housing market. Many homeowners feel locked into their interest rate, but what if they could move with it?
If you have someone who has an extremely low rate and the high 2s, low 3s on a home that they currently own, they may not want to move to another home because they're going to go from those low rates to current market rates, which are significantly higher.
Not only could a portable mortgage provide more flexibility to move to a new home, but it could also free up supply for future home buyers. Justin DeMola with Lenders One says in concept it sounds great, but it does come with a lot of questions.
If people are upgrading their homes, how are they going to bridge that gap for the equity for the down payment?
DeMola says in this case it depends on how much the homeowner is upgrading. Additionally, mortgage agreements are clear contracts tied to a specific property, with the home's address listed as collateral. Transferring that loan to a new house would mean effectively rewriting the contract. And one key question, will banks go along with this? Congress might have to pass new laws.
We don't know how that's going to work, but when we look at it, we really have to pay attention to, again, the mechanics of a mortgage, right? How are we going to actually take the workflow and make it so that a mortgage can be portable?
The Federal Housing Finance Agency did not provide further details about its plans for portable mortgages. In a statement, a spokesperson said that the agency was studying a, quote, wide variety of options to lower housing costs. Other options officials are weighing include making mortgages assumable and a 50-year mortgage option. In Atlanta, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
Tens of thousands of San Diegans who use their Medi-Cal coverage at Planned Parenthood clinics lost that ability after Congress passed the Trump administration's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. KPBS reporter John Carroll says the county is now supporting efforts to change that.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes with Supervisor Anderson and Supervisor Desmond voting no, all other supervisors being present and voting aye.
With that vote this morning, the Board of Supervisors directed County Council to support multiple lawsuits filed by Planned Parenthood and California Attorney General Rob Bonta to roll back a defund provision in H.R. 1, also known as the Big Beautiful Bill. That provision prohibits Medicaid, known in California as Medi-Cal, from reimbursing nonprofit health centers that also offer abortion services. It's been against the law to use federal funds for abortion since 1977.
We are here today because Donald Trump is trying to take basic health care away from tens of thousands of San Diegans.
At a news conference before the vote, Board of Supervisors Chair Tara Lawson-Remer talked about why she wanted the county to get involved in efforts to fight the Trump administration. She says of the nearly 900,000 San Diego County residents that rely on Medicaid for their health coverage, more than 32,000 of them use that coverage to obtain a whole host of services from Planned Parenthood, including cancer screenings and birth control. One Planned Parenthood patient says the fallout from not being able to use Medi-Cal at Planned Parenthood and other nonprofit clinics is frightening.
I myself have counted on Planned Parenthood for compassionate and affordable sexual and reproductive health care. If I didn't have Planned Parenthood, it would have devastating consequences instances for myself and for hundreds of thousands of other patients across San Diego County.
California is one of 23 states that sued the administration in July to restore the ability to use Medicaid funds for services at Planned Parenthood. A federal appeals court heard arguments in the case earlier this month, and a decision is pending. In the meantime, unless and until the case is resolved in their favor, no Medicaid patients anywhere in the United States can obtain any services at Planned Parenthood. John Carroll, KPBS News.
It is National Injury Prevention Day, and according to the CDC, unintentional injuries are the leading cause of death for children and teens in the U.S. Mandy Gaither talks to an emergency medicine doctor about how to protect children from some of the most dangerous but preventable accidents.
From car accidents to firearm deaths, unintentional injuries from accidents kill more children and teens than anything else, according to the CDC, and many of these injuries are preventable.
For every child that dies, there are many more that suffer serious injuries.
Dr. Manisha Agrawal with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says protecting children starts with car safety. For infants and toddlers, that means a rear-facing car seat for as long as possible before switching to a forward-facing seat and then a booster seat.
A big mistake I see is families get so excited about graduating or transitioning their child to the next step in car seat safety, but that's actually reducing their child's protection in the event of a crash.
Agrawal says airbags can be dangerous to young passengers in the front seat, so children should stay in the back seat for safety. Another unintentional injury danger is firearms. Agrawal says families with a gun in the home should lock it up, unloaded, with ammunition locked separately.
It is such an important way to prevent children from dying from guns.
Finally, outdoor safety. Agrawal says children on wheeled vehicles like a bicycle or scooter should be wearing a properly fitting helmet that hits 2 fingers above the eyebrows and snug around the chin.
You want to make sure that that helmet has not expired. They typically need to be replaced every 5 years.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Yeah, some great reminders there. And the doctor says that playground safety is also a concern. She recommends parents check to make sure the equipment is safe and that there's a soft base beneath that equipment before allowing their child to play on it.
Well, it has been a stormy last couple of days, and that continues really through the rest of the work week. One thing to note, though, the rainfall overall, we're looking at lighter rainfall compared to last week, and totals a little bit lower overall. We will see some snow up into our mountain regions as well. So let's break all of this down, starting off with what to expect for tonight. The cloudy skies continue really across the board. We're at 45 for our overnight low in Oceanside, 50 in San Diego, 38 there in Borrego Springs, and down to the 20s in Mount Laguna, just setting the stage for some snow as we go through the next couple of days. Now, cloudier skies in places like Mount Laguna, but we see some sunshine peeking through across the board. Otherwise, 60 degrees is our high in Ramona. We get to 65 in San Diego for tomorrow, only at 36 for Mount Laguna. Now, we have 2 more storms to talk about. We've had a little bit of a break per se. Now, throughout the day tomorrow is more of a break, but tomorrow night is when this next storm system rolls in. It's going to start off with a little bit more of a northern focus, then come further to the south. We're looking at about 24 hours overall. Still have some concerns about flash flooding and mudslides, especially burn scar areas, but this is not like what we saw with that late week storm last week and into last weekend. As we head to the end of the work week and into this weekend, here's the next storm that we will be talking about. Again, much more of a Southern California focus, but we're not looking at as much rainfall necessarily. Let's take a look at future radar and satellite, give you an idea of how all of this plays out here. So we're going to track this storm system as it moves in from the Pacific, again, starting off north. Then we start to get more of the rainfall further to the south. We get snow in the Sierra. We do get some snow into our mountain regions farther south as well, but just not like what we're seeing in the Sierra, for example. So Thursday evening, we do have the rainfall for the evening commute, for example, in San Diego. Things move a little bit further inland, but we do still have some of the showery conditions along the coast first thing Friday morning, and then we'll continue with our next storm. Let's take a look at your 5-day outlook overall. The rain Thursday, Friday, temperatures staying in the mid to low 60s, then bouncing back for the weekend. Taking a look further inland, we're in the 60s. We get back to 69 Saturday and Sunday once that rainfall does wrap up Thursday and Friday, maybe a few lingering showers Saturday morning. We do see a little bit more of a rain-snow mix Friday into our mountain regions. Temperatures staying in the 30s overall. We do get back to 47 by the time we get to Sunday. And then taking a look at our desert regions, we get the rain here as well Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday. Then we're back into the 70s with plenty of sunshine by the time we get to your Sunday. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
While patriots fought against the British in the American Revolution 250 years ago on the East Coast, people in the San Diego region were on a parallel track of new beginnings and their own rebellion. Local historian and University of San Diego professor David Miller told KPBS's Amita Sharma recently that in some cases, both coasts were motivated by one key event, the French and Indian War.
So set the scene for me, David. It's 1775. The American Revolution has just started on the East Coast. What had happened recently in the San Diego region?
It was a few years before, in 1769, that the Spanish first arrived in a permanent way. They'd been here very briefly with Cabrillo in 1542, but 1769 is the first permanent Spanish settlement. And so you would have had above what is now Old Town and the Presidio Hill, the establishment of the Presidio, and the mission had moved to its present location up in Mission Valley. There's a mix of Spanish soldiers and civil officials, and then over at the mission, a couple of padres, friars, and then, of course, a mix of the native Kumeyaay people, some who lived around the Presidio, some who lived at the mission, and the vast majority who lived out in sort of their traditional villages and towns around the county.
So in 1775, on the East Coast, the people living in the colonies were waging war against the British for independence. Indigenous people in the San Diego region were getting started on their own revolt. Tell me about that.
Yes. So at almost the exact same time, in 1775, November of 1775, the Kumeyaay, specifically the Kumeyaay that lived south of the San Diego River, the Tipai, they organized a revolt against the presence of the Spanish. And so November 4th and 5th, they sent soldiers, warriors, to surround the Presidio and occupy the Spanish soldiers, sort of keep them at bay, while another contingent went over to the mission itself and actually attacked the mission, burned it down, dragged one of the fathers, Father Jaime, out down to the San Diego River, where they murdered him. But this was all in the big picture, a response to Spanish colonial presence in San Diego. And so the Kumeyaay were, not to draw too many parallels, it's certainly different, but while the Americans are responding in their own way to English colonial realities, the Kumeyaay were responding to the Spanish colonial realities.
What's the connection between the French and Indian War, the American Revolution, the Kumeyaay Revolt, and the founding of San Diego?
The result of it was that essentially Britain was ascendant in North America, and the French left for the most part. And it set the conditions that would eventually lead to the American Revolution, specifically issues about land, the presence of British troops, and taxes. At the exact same time, it sets the conditions for what's going to become the establishment of San Diego. Remember, the Spanish had been here in 1542 but left. There was no permanent Spanish settlement here in San Diego. But as a result of the war and the reshuffling of global powers, the Spanish realized we need to have a stronger claim on our lands in Alta California in case the British get any ideas.
What is your sense about what people on the East Coast knew about what was happening here in San Diego at the time?
I suspect not much, just given distances and times and the ability to get information across those distances. But what's interesting is the other direction. Many of the people in San Diego were aware of what was happening. So the Spanish soldiers at the Presidio collected money and funds to donate to the Spanish military that were then used in the Spanish alliance with the Americans against the British.
I've worked as a reporter in San Diego for a very long time now, and what's always stood out for me is anytime there is a big national story, there's always a San Diego connection. And what you've just recited to me about local history basically tells me that that tie has existed for some time now, right?
Yes, absolutely. San Diego is just as old as the United States, certainly in European history. Obviously, it's older in terms of Native Americans. But what you see is a lot of the things that are happening on the East Coast that we take to be fundamentally part of American history, U.S. history, are shaping events here in San Diego, and that they're happening in some cases simultaneously. So San Diego history is unique, but it is always connected to these broader national and global histories.
And that was KPBS's Amita Sharma, and she was speaking with University of San Diego professor David Miller. Public Matters is a partnership with KPBS, iNewsSource, and Voice of San Diego. You can see more of our stories at kpbs.org/Public Matters. And here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. A federal court has struck a blow to President Trump's push to redraw voting maps before the midterm election next year. NPR's Morning Edition reports on the decision blocking Texas Republicans' plan for redistricting. And KPBS Midday Edition is talking to an SDSU psychologist and author of a new book, what she's recommending to parents raising kids in a high-tech world. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.